But a community court is going to take a problem-solving approach to identify and address that underlying issue. Maybe the defendant has 3 children, working for 10 years, everything's fine, loses his job, has to feed the kids every day. He and his wife use their savings. They borrow from friends, but eventually the money runs out. He's got to feed the children, so he goes to Home Depot, steals a set of screwdrivers or drill bits that he can sell for $15 on the street. I don't know about Madison, but I know in New York you can find people selling these on street corners and at traffic lights. Or maybe maybe it's a different underlying issue. Maybe that person's has a heroin addiction that he or she has to feed. Unless you address this underlying issue, when the defendant finishes the sentence, he still has to feed the children. He still has that heroin addiction. He's not going to go back to Home Depot because they know him. He's going to go to Lowe's to support his family. To stop recidivism, you have to find and address that issue, whether it's job training, substance abuse treatment, mental health issues, trauma counseling. So the community court problem-solving approach is to identify those problems and address them and monitor someone's compliance with services to make sure they're getting the necessary treatment they need to stop recidivating back through the court system. So now we're going to talk about trying to build trust in justice. And we're going to start in the courtroom first. And it's also referred to as procedural justice. Decades worth of research has isolated a handful of factors, these 4 factors, as to what produces perceptions of fairness in people, when people think they were treated fairly. Well, when they believe they were treated with dignity and respect, when they understand the process, when they had a chance to be heard and listened to, and when they believed the decision-making process was neutral and unbiased. First and foremost, we think it's simply the right thing to do, right? Treat people with respect. We see everyone as part of our community. They're not a docket number to us. They're not just a defendant or just the charge. We see the whole person, taking a holistic approach to that person. Yes, that person may have a case, your case is in front of you, but maybe a father, maybe a mother, a brother, a sister. There's a whole part of that person which we have to consider if we're going to look to help that person and stop them from coming to the court system. But most importantly, taking this approach, concentrating on these 4 principles called procedural justice, it gets better outcomes. And research tells us that people are more likely to comply with mandates, obey the law, trust the system, if they feel they were treated fairly and with respect and had a voice and understood the process. A challenge for us when we opened was we were on 2nd and 3rd generation high school dropouts, and Brett was working out in the community even before I was on the issue of education. The Red Hook houses, they are public projects, they're poor areas, so we had to raise the value of education in our community. To do this, we opened a GED, it's a high school equivalency classroom. I could also use participation in GED or taking the GE test as part of a sanction or a sentence on a case. But like all of our services, as it says, they're available on a walk-in basis. We also operated a youth court. It's a court run by teenagers, very inclusive kind of process. And so between the GED classes and youth court, they were graduating over 30 students a year. And these students are going to community college and 4-year colleges. And they were back in our community. So we were sending role models back to our community for other students to see that college was a real option for them.